Cool. I'm so sorry, Rachel. Continue.
No, you're fine. So you said, why was I doing that?
Yeah. So you said you bought flowers for your dad, or like for your mom from your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just like in the mindset, like that's how I was dealing with it, and that was just like in the mindset of, well, if she's gonna have to live a lie, at least it should be like a good one.
Okay.
And so then I like would tell like my dad, like I would like force him to like go on like dates with her and stuff, and I think that was just my way of like trying to have them like rekindle their like marriage or like whatever. And so that was happening, and like my mom was like, wow, like I can't believe that like my husband like did this for me and stuff, and I kind of felt like guilty because she would like tell me, and she'd be like, wow, like that was so shocking that he did this, and it would be like, you know, like something that I told him to do, or like even something that I did do.
Right.
And so then I was like, this isn't really working, like this isn't, I felt like it wasn't like beneficial, and I felt like it was lying, and so I felt bad, and so I confronted my dad on like a weekly basis of like, you need to tell my mother, you need to tell my mother, and because I realized that if it came from me, like that would be something that I feel like, I just felt like it shouldn't come from like your daughter, it should come from like your husband.
So you were telling like, you need to tell mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just would like confront him all the time. And then my sister was engaged during this time, and she was like, you know, Rachel, I don't know if I can get married because sometimes I question whether or not like our dad was faithful.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, shoot, like, do I tell her? Do I not tell her? And I was like terrified. And so I was like, you know, I can't lie to you. Like, he isn't. And she's like, what? And so she took it pretty good, like, when I told her. But after that, she kind of, like, freaked out even more about her marriage. But that was something that I knew that I wasn't going to lie about.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I told her, I was like, you know, I don't think that you should tell mom. Like, I think that dad is going to tell mom. And so, like, just, you have to, like, trust me on that. And that's awkward because she's, like, the older sister. But I think that she did do that because we both kind of agreed that it should come from, like, my dad. And so that's when I really stressed to my father. I was like, you know, like, this lie is not just affecting, like, me. It's, like, affecting your other children.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know. And so then I was like, well, what about my brother? You know, like, I wonder if he ever has thought that, like, he's been, like, cheating and stuff like that. So in front of, like, my sister, we both kind of confronted him. And I let my sister, like, lead that conversation because she's the older one.
Okay.
And so he was like, yeah, I already knew. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Wow. So your younger brother knew?
Yeah. No, he's my older brother.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry.
I'm the youngest. It's fine. And so I was like, okay. He said that when he said that he already knew, he said that he kind of just thought that was the case, but he didn't have any evidence of it. And so I was the only one that had evidence.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, okay, like, whatever, like, I guess that's settled. And so he just, like, didn't, and still doesn't really, like, talk about it to this day. So I don't really know how, he's fine, I guess.
Right.
So for my sister at that time, I was just, like, she still, like, felt like she couldn't, like, marry her fiance at the time, and so that was when I really, like, pursued, like, both my father and my sister, and, like, told my sister, I was like, no, like, I think that he can be faithful, and, like, here's why, because he has in the past, and, like, I think that dad has, like, bigger issues than, like, being faithful. Like, I think that, like, of course, like, he's autistic, like, I think that is, like, a bigger deal than, like, cheating. And so she's like, yeah, you're right. She just, like, was very terrified that her marriage would turn into, like, my parents' marriage, and and so that was really difficult to just, like, come alongside her and, like, deal with that problem of just, like, because during that time I was just like, I hate men, like, men suck. But, like, to tell my sister that, like, men aren't terrible was just, like, very difficult for me to do.
Because did you believe that or no?
I mean, I definitely, like, because during this time, like, I was told by my father over and over again, like, if you tell, like, your mother, then this is what's going to happen.
Okay.
And so it was, like, very, like, black and white situation. So I did kind of believe that I just, like, I was nervous for her to get married, absolutely. But I saw the way that like he treated her, and I was like giving him the benefit of a doubt.
Okay.
Which I feel like I wouldn't have to have given if my father wasn't like cheating and like a jerk during this time.
Yeah.
So they, I think it was like right before they got married. I started to get more like, you have to tell my mother, and so I think that my dad was getting scared that I was going to tell my mother.
Okay.
So he ended up telling her, and they didn't know, but I was like in the next room over.
Okay.
And so I heard like literally everything. And so my mom like freaked out, but she took it very well, which was very surprising because she would always say, you know what, Rachel, like she would say like, oh, you know what, Rachel, like at least like he may not like always be there for me, and he may not be there like emotionally, but at least he's not a cheater. And she would literally say that phrase. And so, and she would tell me that all the time too. She was like, oh, you know, like, you know, he's not here at like dinner tonight, but at least, you know, like he's very faithful and like stuff like that. And so I didn't know how well she'd take it because that was like her phrase that she would always use.
Well, at least he's not a cheater. Yeah. Wow.
And so I was like, shoot, like she's not going to take it very well. So she took it very well, but she kind of just like, after they talked, I don't know what happened, but he left. And so I immediately like ran into the room, and I just like gave my mom like the biggest hug, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm sorry, it was like so stupid, and like, are you okay? And I was just like, no, I'm fine, like how are you doing? And so that then became a very difficult time because like my father wasn't really like there for her during the process, because I mean he definitely tried to be, but I think he was still struggling like with his faithfulness.
Okay.
And so my mother would, you know, she was pretty angry. She just didn't really want to talk to him, and so it was just like not a good time for them to like be near each other. So I definitely was like more like leaning on my mother and being like, you know, like if you want to get a divorce, like that's totally fine. Like if you think that you can work this through, like there's counseling, like there's other options, like just like try to be there for her during that time.
Yeah.
And I think that it was very awkward because my mother is not the skinniest, and so like the woman that he was going after were like skinny and like half her age. And so she some nights she'd be like literally like over the toilet just like trying to throw up. She was never bulimic or anything, but she was just like trying to do that, and so I was just like, no, like you don't need to do that. And so
you saw all of this?
I saw all of it.
Wow.
And so I was just like, no, like you don't need to do this, like this isn't right. And so she was then like going through times where I'd be like, it'd be a normal day, and then all of a sudden she'd come to my room and say like, pack up all your stuff, we're leaving. And so I'd be like, like let's take it back a few steps, like what happened, like what did he do today, like and so she was just like very angry, and so I was just like, you know, like I was just like, you know, like what should I do, like should I like tell her, because she was like actually like taking advice from me at this point in time.
Wow. Like you as the daughter, which is
a very awkward situation because it was like, first it was my older sister, and I was like, oh, she's taking my advice, like okay, like I have to give good advice then. And so it was like I didn't really know what to do, and so kind of just like they started to go to counseling because I didn't really think, I mean I think that there was like still love there, and I don't think he's like a terrible person. And so they started to go through counseling, and so, and then he definitely saw like the impact of what he was doing, and it was like destroying the family, and so like he definitely like did a 180 degree change, and like he's great now. But
so he saw the error in the behavior.
What?
He saw like his error.
Yeah, he saw. Yeah.
His mistake. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So he saw that, like, what he was doing, and he saw the ramifications, and so he was like, okay, I need to change.
Right.
And so, like, counseling, like, really helped because they went to, like, couples counseling.
Okay.
And, like, also, too, like, I would, like, just, like, remind my mom that she was, like, very beautiful, and, like, she didn't have to be, like, this certain size to be pretty, and, like, she doesn't have to have blonde hair and blue eyes and, like, stuff like that. And so I think that that was very, like, helpful to her.
Okay.
And so after... I think it was like after like a year of them being like fully recovered and that like marriage like restored, which doesn't always happen, which I think is a really cool testament of both like their part and his part. like, I think that that's when it really hit home to me, like, okay, like, how do I feel about, like, this situation?
Okay.
And so I think that was probably the hardest part, because it was easier for me to, like, say, okay, like, this person needs this person needs that, and I'll, like, give that to them because I saw it.
Right.
But I think it wasn't, like, the classic phrase of, like, self-care. And
Okay.
so I think that's when I just, like, freaked out, because it was just, like, every time I would, like, bring up the situation, it was something that, like, I would be like, oh, well, like, you know, he changed, he's a different person now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, well, he went to counseling with you. What did he do to me? Like, he told me that, like, I'm never going to see you again. And, like, all this stuff. Like,
right.
This is your fault if you tell. And, like, I just felt like that was never really, like, addressed.
Okay.
And so I think that it was, like, something that I wanted to be addressed. And you know me, like, I'm going to go fix a problem if I see it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I told my dad, I was like, you know, I'm really mad at you. And it was, like, 2 years after, like, this situation had been brought up.
Right.
Which is, like, kind of late. But I didn't know that I was mad. And I was just like, I hate that I am mad. And it's like, I do forgive you, but, like, I still have, like, this baggage. And, like, I don't know what to do with it. And I told him, I was like, you know, like, I see that this is a problem. Because, like, I saw it, like, when I was, like, dating other people. Like, I saw that I was, like, in, like, bad relationships, because I saw that I was, like, I thought that's what I deserved, and that's what I saw at home.
So that started to show up in your own relationship.
Right. And so I, like, told my dad, I was like, I don't like that this person is my boyfriend right now. And so he's like, well, break up with them. And I was like, but I feel like I deserve that, and that's because of you. Wow. I feel like that was kind of, like, rude to say, but I think that was something where he was like, well, shoot, like, I actually did, like, I didn't do her right. And so I think that was a time where, like, we kind of just, like, focused on our relationship. And, like, I went to counseling during that time, and I was just like, you know, I actually don't know how I'm feeling. And it was, like, hard to, like, go to counseling because the stigma. And it was hard, too, because it was, like, I would sit for, like, 30 minutes and, like, stare at a sheet of paper, and it would be, like, just feelings. It'd be, like, feeling angry, feeling this, and it was just, like, tell me how you're feeling today. And I didn't know.
Right.
Because I wasn't thinking about it for, like, a year.
Okay.
Like, I'd suppressed my emotions.
Right.
And you could see that, like, in my relationships, like, towards my friends, towards, like, everything. Like, it was just, like, I was, like, not really there.
Okay.
And
like,
so,
not really there, do you mean, like emotionally present?
Yeah, like, emotionally.
Okay.
And so, like, yeah, and, like, people would be like, Rachel, like, why don't you actually, like, tell me what's up? And, like, everything's fine, and that's what I thought it was. And so that was very difficult to, like, just stare at a sheet of paper and be like, what the heck am I feeling right now? Like,
right.
I know that I don't feel normal, but I don't know if I'm mad, and I don't know if I'm sad. And so I didn't really know, like, how to handle that. And so that was just, like, really hard to, I don't know, just, like, stare at a paper. And so, I don't know, it was just kind of weird. Like, I don't really think that counseling helped. I don't know why. I mean, I went to 2 different counselors because I didn't like the first one. I thought that she just talked about herself a lot.
Oh.
That's not what a counselor does. Like,
right.
I'm going to tell you my problems. But the second counselor, I think, was pretty beneficial, but she just, like, I think that she pushed me too far, that I wasn't ready to go there. And so she kind of, like, she was like, we should bring your father to counseling. And I was like, no. No,
you just weren't ready for that?
I wasn't ready for that, but I was like, you know, like, she probably knows best, like, I'll do what she does. And so he went, and that was probably really awkward. And I think that was a moment where I just, like, felt bad. Because it was like, I can't imagine what he was feeling in that moment, to have, like, your child say that you need to come to counseling with me, and you have to pay for these counseling services because you messed up your child.
Right.
And so I just felt so bad. But I think it was, like, good for him to realize that, like, his actions weren't, like, the way that he handled the situation wasn't beneficial. But I think that, I don't know, I just wish the format was different, because it was, like, she kind of, like, did the format. It was more in, like, here's why I'm mad, and, like, then, like, the next part was, like, I guess, like, here's how we're gonna, like, fix it.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like that format, because I just felt like it was very, like, targeting to that person. and you could just like see it in his eyes that he was just like felt really let down. And so I think that that was just beneficial to me to like see that, because then I was like, okay, like I think that he is sorry for what he's done. And so it was something that I was like, you know, like I can't like be mad at him the rest of my life for like one thing, and like the same thing. Like how long am I gonna be mad at like this for? So I was like, you know what, Dad, I forgive you. I was like, okay. And so we kind of just went parachuting to like mend that, to like do something fun and just like have like fun time together instead of like just being like very like targeting and like angry at each other all the time. And so I think that that was just I don't know, it was just like a fun experience. And then I think that for me it's just like something that I don't think about like his cheating anymore. Like I think that he's definitely not like that anymore. And I think that just for him being autistic, like I think it was easier for him a little bit to, because I think, I mean, his personality is very, I can't really like explain it unless if like you were to meet it, but I think it was like easier for him to fall into that.
Yeah.
And so to realize that, and to realize that he was sorry, and that's like something that he really struggled with.
Right.
But that's like in the past. I think it was something that I just had to think about in my mind and to realize that myself. And then I guess like how I overcame that was to step into his shoes and to look at it from like his perspective, which I can't really do because I don't really know. But like I know he has feelings and I saw his feelings. And I think that was kind of how it happened.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing. That is quite the story. So I have some questions. So like, it sounds your relationship is better because you all worked through it.
Right.
And it sounds like that was very important for you to have that confrontation and have that directness.
Yes.
And I also heard that from this process was from the counselor's perspective of like you wanted to be self-directed rather than them telling you what's going to happen. And I also hear that, well, I trust you because you're the counselor. I also heard that, well, I trust you because you're my dad. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if I'm right there, though.
No, I totally do.
Yeah.
I totally do. I mean, I think I love my dad, absolutely, and I think that that's something that it was really hard to, like, overcome that. And I think it wasn't the fact that he was cheating. I think it was the fact that he was, like, lying to me. And that because he'd be like, oh, I quit. And I'd be like, no, you didn't. And he'd be like, okay, fine, I didn't. And so it was like those conversations where it was like, I know that you didn't. Why are you lying to me? And those conversations happened a lot. And a lot of conversations where it was like sometimes when I get upset, like I think that you've probably seen it, like I do like very like passive aggressive things. Like giving Larry like red fun dip, which is really funny. But like it's not even like, because I don't want to be mean, but it's like I guess like I get some satisfaction out of it. I don't know why. So I'd do like some stuff like that, and my dad would see it and he'd be like, you need to stop doing that. And I'd be like, why? And so he would get mad at that, and so I'd be like, why? It's like fun and games. And he'd be like, no, it's not. And I think like I've gotten better at it because now it's like red fun dip, versus it was like radio stations, and like I somehow turned that into like, you know, like, oh, which radio station are we gonna pick? And it was like he knew it was a conversation of like not actually a radio station. It'd be like in front of my mother, and so it was very like my mom would think we're having one conversation, but he would know that we're having a different one.
Wow.
And so it was very like, and I feel like that was very immature of me, but that just made me feel better. And so he didn't like that, and so it was a lot of why are you doing that, and like type of stuff. And he'd like come into my room and he'd be like, you can't do that, and I'd be like, yes I can.
Wow. And
so the interesting thing is though is that I never, because I would say that I wasn't like always like the best kid. I did get into a lot of trouble, especially like at school.
Right.
But I always like would like take his punishments. Like he would like take my phone away a lot, and I think that it's something that I saw that he was doing because like he cared about me, and it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna blurt out like this big secret in front of my mother. And so I think that I always had some respect for him, which I think that helped.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I also, it feels like being in, like, having to give your mom advice, giving your big sister advice.
Yeah.
Is that hard? Like, because you were 16.
Yeah, I was 16, and my sister is 6 years older than me.
Wow.
And my mother is like 32 years older than
Right.
me. But I think that, I mean, I honestly think that that's not something that, like, I think that anyone could do that, honestly. Like,
Okay.
I don't think that, like, when I babysit, I learn stuff from 5-year-olds.
Right.
Like, I think that you just, like, I don't really think I think that everyone's capable of doing that. And
Right.
I don't think it was hard. I think it was necessary.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, Rachel, I appreciate you coming
Cool.
to chat with me. That's all I've got for you.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Well, I hope it's beneficial.
It was. Rachel, you talked for